Get your toy. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. Happy Monday. It's Deanna. Sorry to be late. I'm having a real technology struggle this morning. Super frustrating, but it's good to see you. I'm going to have to improvise because I wanted to show you this morning the conclusion of the show we started last week, looking at some of the current rugs that are available on the internet that would be great for collectors or great to finish. And then I also wanted to cover the part of the show from Friday night cocktail night because it got quite late that I didn't get to. And unfortunately, that slideshow seems to be locked. In any case, there's an image stuck over it that I can't access. So it's blocking all of the other slides. So I was trying to figure that out for the last 20 minutes, and it's not happening. So I'm going to run the show according to what I had in mind to finish up our episode from last week, looking at contemporary rugs, hooked rugs, and other kinds of rugs that are available for you online. We will do that. Oh dear, oh dear. Good to see everybody. Heidi, good to see you. Welcome back. Linda, great to see you. Rainy day. You know, we did have a shift, didn't we, recently? It's still really warm here, really muggy, but I guess a lot of people got sort of torrential rain and solved some problems in some parts of the country. I hope that you're comfortable. That's the main thing, isn't it? Karen, great to see you. And Kirsten, Linda, great to see you. Robin, Doreen, great to see everybody. Beverly and Carol, I'll catch up on the comments as we go. Barbara, great to see you. Shannon, great to see you. Two of my buddies that were in the Monet class last night. We did the second Monet class last night. We did a Wednesday and a Sunday. I usually do that for weekday people and weekend people. And it was really fun. I really enjoyed it, and I'm anxious to get back to my Monet as well. I'm working on the book that you know that I'm working on for Rug Hooking Magazine. It's a designing like book that's based on the series that we've been doing. And before I forget, I mentioned it during the class yesterday, which doesn't help everybody who's live today. Um, I'm not sure if I hinted at this. I think I did on cocktail night as well. But I got a call from the library in Hartford, Connecticut. And it is a really nice big library. They do a lot of events and shows and things like that. And they got in touch about doing like a show of hooked drugs with, a talk and maybe a little demonstration. And I thought, oh, I would love to do that, right? So I thought yes to that, and then I realized I've got all of those Van Goghs that so many people have sent in, and I haven't arranged a show yet. I had a couple of leads, but it always seems like it's going to be an odd time, or it's going to be a lot to rent a space. And then this kind of fell on my lap on, I guess, Friday. So I thought, I'm going to follow up with this. But the reason I'm telling you is because I'm probably going to have an appointment with that woman who called me at some point, maybe this week, and decide what the nature of it will be, an exhibit besides something else. But you know, if you've been following for a while, that I've been trying to create a physical exhibit, like something that you could go to in person to display the great hooked rugs that relate to the Van Gogh chair or any Van Gogh, right? So Barbara came up with this idea when we did our designing like Van Gogh class, I guess it was last year. And so I put out a PDF which is available on Ribbon Candy Hooking. It should also be in the body of this video, where you can download Van Gogh's chair. It's just a line drawing that I did of his chair, just a very simple still life. And people have been making hooked rugs based on Van Gogh's chair, very simple line drawing. Some of them that are coming in are not simple at all. They're beautiful and exciting and personalized with family pets and scenes and larger stories happening. So I just want to remind you two things. If you started your Van Gogh, it might be a good time to finish it because we are looking at putting this show together for the fall. So I don't have an exact date, and as soon as I do, I'll let you know because you might want to plan to come and see the show live. I'll certainly be there, and I'll be speaking and giving a demonstration, and it should be a great go-to event. The rug should be hanging for some time as well. But I will collect them and everything. I'll be very careful with them. They have different exhibit rooms, you know. But yeah, we're trying to tie a bunch of things into this one event. And that got me thinking, Robin, I was thinking of you too, because I dropped the ball on so much with busyness and craziness and insanity, personal insanity, and the kids being home from the summer, all these different elements of my life, the Tetris factor that I try to balance out, and sometimes it's impossible. But I was thinking in putting together an exhibit for the library, I will certainly include um, a piece about the history of rug hooking, and we kind of talked about this on past coffee times, how much I wanted to create sort of a standardized format for a library exhibit in case any of you wanted to out there in your neck of the woods. Libraries usually have like a display case or sometimes something larger, and you can sign up, usually by the month, at least in our local libraries, to put up a display. And you don't get anything from it, right, except the joy of having your work up there and sharing information with the immediate community. Sometimes when you put a display up, you can do in tandem. Like I used to put up displays of my collection of mid-century girls' mysteries, not the Nancy Drews, but like the Judy Boltons and a bunch of other series. And sometimes I would then do a talk. The exhibit would be up, and I would do like one talk in the evening about the books, like a live thing with a question and answer. There's all kinds of things you can do at your local library to get people interested in rug hooking. So I thought in doing this, I will kill two birds with one stone. Two conversations that we've had in the past that I dropped the ball on, not completely, just haven't gotten to yet. I'm going to tackle both of those things this month. One of them is setting up sort of a standardized format with text if you want to do some kind of a library exhibit and offer to hang your hooked rugs up, offer to borrow rugs of friends. They're usually, in glass cases and stuff, not just like open for people to touch. But I will write up some text that I'm going to use for this exhibit on general rug hooking, that if you wanted to do this, you could just use my text too. Just download it, print it, put a pretty border on it, get it up in the display case. And I'm going to do a thing with the series I've showed you before of my burlap sacks, where I hook parts of them to show kind of the origins of rug hooking, getting a sack and opening it up and just hooking into the burlap. So I'm going to document all this in just a small document with plenty of text, so that if you thought, well, this is something that I'd like to do this year, or sign up for the next slot that's open, any season would be great, in your local library or local place. And if you don't feel like you have the time or the info in your head rattling around to write the text, I'll write text, and then anybody can use it who wants it, and it'll be a general sort of history. So that's one half of it. The other half is a lot of people have contacted me over the last year plus about teaching and using like the ribbon candy hooking umbrella to teach under, just in terms of me advertising it and having a brand to work with. And I've always thought that this is a fantastic idea. And it was one of these many things I haven't gotten to. Well, I'm going to do this at the same time because I'm going to have to do it anyway to get this library show mounted. So I've got three birds with one stone here. I'm getting the Van Gogh stuff up. I'm doing a teaching thing at the same time, and I'm getting a general display up with Van Gogh that kind of backs people in who have no starting point into the history of rug hooking. So I am going to be putting together kits, an idea for simple patterns. I'll choose like maybe 3 or 4 patterns with either yarn or wool strips, and I'm going to create an absolute bargain basement, can't go any lower without actually losing money, price for simple kits. And for people who are interested in it, I'll start advertising it and mentioning it. For people who are interested in teaching, for example, at a local community center, at a library, at a school, I will start doing, I'll say like maybe once a month or once every 6 weeks, a class where I just sit down and talk to the people who do want to buy these sort of wholesale kits of something simple with the supplies and with a simple hook and a hoop. For either, well, let's just say hooking for now. Punching would be more difficult. Let's worry about punching in a few months, but just for rug hooking right now. And I'm going to have like a regular class time that for people who want to do this and teach, that we talk about basic sort of guidelines for teaching, things that for me have worked really well, and don't discourage people, and just go to sort of class flow, right? Like a sort of very simple one class syllabus ideas for getting people going. So we're not talking about a promo-gown certification. We're talking about just being able to say, I know how to rug hook. I'm confident about what to say. I'm confident about how to present it, what the main things are, the main points are I have to say. I have some comfort level because we've drilled back and forth with questions that a person might ask that are the obvious ones. Worth mentioning those out loud. So you going into a teaching situation would say, well, what if somebody said this? I don't have an answer handy. I have the answer handy because I've done so many classes. It's like when I was a tour guide, there's only so many questions that people can ask. And it's only through experience that you hit all those questions. You're driving through Yosemite or, Yellowstone. What altitude is this? How cold? What's the coldest day of the year? What's the population? It's not going to be like, where did you get your shoes? So we'll cover all those kinds of things in simple classes, and I will make it available in the very near future. Basic teaching kit, so you all can get out there, everybody who wants to, for a reasonable amount of money. You decide if you want to make profit or not, or if you just want to volunteer your teach and just buy kits for people. That part is up to you, but I'm going to produce kits that are very basic, but come out really pretty, like mug rug sizes, things that people would keep after they made them. And you decide if you're a person who you love this craft enough that you want to get going with teaching. You don't have to be an expert to teach people to pull up loops as a beginner rug hooker. This is just what we're talking about, primitive beginning stuff. So kind of hit or miss backgrounds. So think about whether that's something that you might want to do, because I think it is great, this library thing falling on my lap when I wasn't really looking. Makes life easy, is a gift, and I think is a sign. And it just reminded me that there are a lot of people out there who would like some help. I obviously have wholesale accounts with everybody, and I can put things together cheaply for you. So if we start doing this and planning this, and we put ourselves out there in numbers, our numbers multiply, and then we get more and more people who are interested in learning how to rug hook. I think it's a good thing. I think it's a positive thing. I can only be in one place at one time, and I know a lot of you want to do this. So lots of fun, something to think about. To be continued. But in the meantime, if you're interested in having your piece exhibited in person, and it sounds like it will be in Hartford, Connecticut, capital city event, right? Get working on that. And there is no size requirement. There is no look to it. I mean, you do any Van Gogh. Most of us were doing the chair, but you don't have to. If you already have a Van Gogh that you want to put in, if you have another idea that is Van Gogh related, that works too. Like if you want to do a portrait of him or your own take on something that he did, or maybe some text, one of his famous lines kind of thing, up to you. But it will be a Van Gogh themed exhibit with a little bit of backstory on rug hooking for people who've never heard of it. And I would get going on that. Any kind of rug making, hooking, punching, mini punch, latch, locker, any kind of rag rug, any technique that you like. And it can be a little itty bitty punch needle if you want, that you could do in an afternoon, just to know that you have a piece of work that's hanging in a show. It's a good feeling. I will film it like crazy for us if you can't make it there, and I'll take very good care of your piece, and of course send it back to you. So I will do that at my expense. I want to be sure that if you're sending me stuff, I'm going to send it back to you. So lots of things to think about. I also wanted to let you know, coming up, I'm just going to get these things out of the way. I just put an Amish toothbrush class onto ribbon candy hooking, and I did not have time because I was messing with these slides that were blocking. I just put that up on ribbon candy hooking. There's been a big demand for Amish toothbrush. This is an Amish toothbrush rug here, right? And a hair clip. It's not in my hair. Gross. But this is this is the Amish toothbrush I think I did for the first book. And let me hold it up a bit better than that. Super colorful rag rug form, and a lot of fun to make. You can make it with your fingers or the Amish toothbrush tool. Very, very easy form, very fun. So I'm putting that class up, and I was messing around with colors. I'm offering it as just the class for people who are #1 in other countries and don't want to deal with shipping because it's crazy, or the whole kit. And the whole kit, this is like a make a table runner thing, just to get you started on the core of the rug, because with all of these rag rugs, just the central part of the rug is the hard part. It's like if you're knitting, right? You'll only do cast on like once. And then even if you're a great knitter, there are those moments that you sit there with your sticks to start and you're like, how do I knit? Right? I mean, this happens with everybody when you do a craft where you only do the hard part once, and then you work for hours or days and you get the rest of it done, but you come back to doing the little nucleus here, and it's a real problem. So we're doing a sort of table-sized thing, because this form of rag rug takes a lot of fabric. And if you're doing just the class, you can sign up for just the class. And I already sell the Amish Toothbrush tool that a neighbor of mine makes for me. So you could get the tool if you wanted, or just sign up for the class, because a lot of people do Amish Toothbrush just with their fingers. And that works too. It's the same as with hooking. You know, do you want a frame? Do you not want a frame? Do you want a hoop? There's options. So just the class, or as a sort of kit. And that would be the class plus a 5-color 100% cotton broadcloth palette, right, of fabric, plus the tool, plus a bunch of the T-pins, which I use, plus the foam block that I go into because I work flat when I start my Amish Toothbrush rugs. It's by far the easiest way to start, plus the binder clips. So the kit comes with everything, or you can do just the class. But I was putting together colors this weekend. I was kind of fooling around with color combinations with all my broadcloth, and I made one color set that looks like this, sort of a cranberry, like a Cape Cod teal, an indigo navy, a jack-o'-lantern orange, and a plum. And I think this one's called Fall Festival. That's one of the color choices. And the kit comes with 1.5 yards of each of those colors, so 7.5 yards. And then I did this one. Again, these are all 100% cotton, in case you want to like wash it and stuff like that. If it's a table runner, you probably won't need to, and you know, as soon as you wash something, you lose a little bit of the luster, even with 100% cotton broadcloths. They're so nice and glossy, but if you're going to wash them on a regular basis because they're outside the bathtub, they will lose their luster. They won't use their utility, but they will lose their luster. This one is like a city gray, a nice deep turquoise, a lime green, more of a, not a teal, but more of a Wedgwood blue, and a fuchsia, or yeah, kind of a bright dahlia color. And I think I called this set Boho Apartment. That's the second set. I did 3 choices because I didn't want to be ridiculous and overwhelming and overdo it, right? First time for everything. I overdo everything. And this one is called Trick or Treat, I think for obvious reasons, but I thought for people who are going into fall, Amish Toothbrush does not take a long time to make, but sometimes you just want to be more ready. Black, white. This is a blue purple, like a bluey purple, really dark purple. This is a deeper orange, and this is a yellow. So these together are like the candy corn colors with the white. And this one's called Trick or Treat. So those are the 3 that are up there. Those are coming up. I have it on, I think, a Thursday, offering it on a Thursday night, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or I think a Saturday, and I did a morning because we have so many international friends who are logging on early, or would like to log on earlier. The morning one I think is noon to 2, so this time frame. I'm looking like a witch today. I'm sorry. Let's change screens right away. Hot mess today. So let's look at what we were doing last week. We were starting to talk about Raya rugs, and we're going to come back there. Just catching up on the thread a little bit. Let me get my face away. Let's see where we left off. I know you're in darkness right now. Okay, that was way back when. I loved that rug. You remember that one? Okay, and this is, we started talking about Raya rugs here. I know we were a little bit further along in the show. That was the back of the Raya rug. The reason I brought up Raya rugs that day was because, if you remember, I think we left off right around here. If you remember, we were looking at some listings on eBay of rugs that are currently available for your collection, for you to finish, right? Sometimes they're unfinished, and that's a lot of fun. Somebody had posted a latch hook rug, and it was actually a Raya rug. And I was making the point that Raya, R-Y-A, rugs are much more valuable. It is like, it's a different kind of a backing, it's a different process. They were very popular in the early 20th century, and they're having a little bit of a renaissance now, right? A little bit of a revival, just like rug hooking, just like rug making in general. So it was exciting to find on eBay. I did not get it. I left it there, and I'm not sure if someone else picked it up after the show last week. I hope so, because it was like $20-something, and these rugs can go for many hundreds. So not even in terms of flipping. If you loved it, I hope that you got it. So we looked at this one too. This might have been the one we left off on. This is another one that was available on eBay. I just remembered I need to have my sheet handy. Let me grab my sheet. This is another Raya rug, done with slightly different material. This is a bit more like Persian wool type material. You see it's a little bit thinner, more feathery, more soft. It's not quite as structured. Boy, this is not my day, is it? I'm having a bit of a struggle looking for my papers. I am not seeing my papers. I might have to wing it with no papers. I'm telling you, looking at how to get that slide out of our way today was really, it did me in. It done me in. Yeah, I can't find what I was looking for. I'm going to grab my bag in a minute. It might be there. But in any case, this is another rug that popped up, sort of a peacock motif, certainly not in peacock colors. But I thought, interesting. This is another Raya rug that is available on eBay. This kind of Persian wool, the thinner kind with the high twist, it can look a bit more kind of matted, right? A little more easily. But, you know, a lot of people use Raya rugs on the floor, but a lot of people just use them on the wall as a proper tapestry. And if that's the case, then you are not going to see the texture change that much. You can always kind of clean them up a little bit. Just a reminder that when we're talking about Raya rugs and you're looking at eBay or you're looking at Facebook Marketplace, when you look at the back photo of it, and if there is not a rear photo of the piece, you should really ask for one. Because when you see the back and it says latch hook and you see this, obviously this is not a latch hook. This is certainly a Raya rug. When you get these really pronounced horizontal lines, you know that you're looking at a Raya rug. And then you're thinking about value, whether you like the design. There were companies in the early middle 20th century who started putting these rugs out. This is another one. This is a commercial design. And I do have some Raya rug catalogs. I have not had the time to go through them yet. And I don't have all by any means. They are super hard to find. It is a good thing to look for in a thrift store because a lot of people threw them out. It was not a big area of rug making. It was not as big as latch became. To me, this is a slightly more, I don't want to say artistic form because I'm putting latch down, but Raya has a bit more, I'm being careful with what I say because you know that I also love latch. Raya has a bit more sort of complexity and possibilities in terms of showing more artistry, all right? So latch can, right? But Raya, it's kind of built in. You're making a lot more knots. There's a lot more possibility in terms of your design and your overall look. But having said that, it is still a high shag form. And because of that, you are looking at designs generally, most commonly, geometrics. Because when you do too much detail, you get so much pixelation because of the high shag that you can really lose the neatness, the tidiness of an image if you are going for more of a pictorial. It doesn't always work. And that is why we see more geometrics and abstracts with latch rugs and Raya rugs because they have a high pile. Can you trim your Raya rug down to have a shorter pile? Sure. But you're still going to have a pile, right? So you're still not going to get the sort of tidiness that you would with a punch needle rug or a hooked rug. The sort of downside to that is with the high shag, you don't get great detail. But the plus side is this slide that we're looking at here. It's not just solid colors in each of these sort of rings, right? There's a bunch of concentric rings that are coming out of the central motifs, very cartoony central motifs too, very cool looking, almost like zodiac looking symbols there. But these are blended colors. So just like with latch, because of latch's backing, right, the gauge, the backing material for latch is that big, stiff, open, wide gauge. Do I have any latch with me? Incredibly not at this moment. I'm kind of in my corner. Not. I feel like the T-Rex. I can't reach anything. But you know, you can picture latch hook backing. It's that white, stiff, very stiff backing with big, wide open, like window pane holes. Now you can get different gauges. Most gauges are 3 holes per inch. You can get a little bit smaller, but at the end of the day, that's a pretty big hole. So, you know, the material that you put through, particularly if you're hooking or using like wool strips or very bulky yarn, and the scale of what you're doing, you can get a very sort of detailed latch with a lot of interest and a lot going on. But when you're doing a Raya rug, we just saw what the backing looked like. It's a fabric backing, right? It's like a woven. It has much smaller holes. Similar to rug hooking, you are creating the holes as you go by pulling the fabric through. So this is a needle. This is done with knots and needles, right? So it's a different process than hooking. It's not done with a hook like latch hook and rug hooking. But with this kind of a form where you're working into a woven, because you've got so many places, there are places, you know, It is dictated in a raya rug. Remember the lines on the back of the one that we saw. Where you're putting your next knot is a given, right? It's not like you just randomly choose. It's supposed to have an order to it. If you're doing it correctly, you're going with the weave. But the holes, as you make them, are so small that you are able to put one color next to another color in the manner of this rug and really blend. Because when I'm looking at those light rings heading out toward the border, there are at least 3 different colors of coral in there. And it looks a bit frosty, doesn't it? It looks a bit antique and frosty. It certainly gives a lot of interest. So this is one of those forms where if you love a good abstract, and who doesn't, another close-up of the border. You see how there's some that are almost like white in there? Also think about the possibilities with this rug form, of doing variegated yarns, meaning color-changing yarns. And this could also be done, a similar look could be done as a rug hooked piece into a rug hook backing like burlap, linen, monk's cloth, rug warp. If you wanted to hook really high and then clip, right? If you wanted a high pile because you're looking at this and thinking, oh, that's delicious, I would like that. You could do this with hooking with the stuff you already have, but it would be a lot of material. It's going to work better, obviously, with yarn, particularly with thinner yarn, but maybe you already have an almighty stash, right, hiding out in your craft room. It's something to think about. You would just be hooking very, very high and clipping, making what the British call the clippy rug, right? So interesting thing to think about. This is another raya rug. I did go on a bit of a raya binge. I just find them so interesting. These geometric shapes, they have this kind of, a lot of these are mid-century or, 1940s, 1950s designs that come from Scandinavia. And, Scandinavia really is like the height of textile design. And jewelry and silver, right? Scandinavians do this kind of modern design, 20th century, so well. It's what they're known for. So a lot of the early patterns that people were following that were Scandinavian designs are super abstract and at that time super MCM, mid-century modern. Like really the poppermost, really desirable pieces that you would either want to put on the floor or hang as a tapestry, high art, right? And this would be an example of that. The style of design from that period does a lot with playing with shapes. It does a lot with asymmetry, where this looks like it's kind of an oval or tree pattern with shapes within shapes. You can see how much variety around the border and in the 4 corners is there. They're not really doing a lot the same from one motif to the next. There are a lot of repeat motifs. It does make you think of a board game or the back of a playing card, right? That kind of era of design. And interestingly enough, this came up in the Monet class last night too. A lot of raya rugs, including the last one, let me just click back just for a minute so we can remind ourselves, are done in analogous color palettes, right? As opposed to, we tend to, as rug hookers, right, reading books about rug hooking, having a century of a lot of teachers telling us exactly how to do it, baby, and we tend to be overwhelmed with conversations about the color wheel and the way that you should use colors. I still believe in the DLDB, dark, light, dull, bright. But as far as the color wheel goes, I often reject conversations on the color wheel. It's good to have a basic knowledge of how it works. If you remember back from art class, that's probably enough. But the thing with analogous color is when you think about it, it's the opposite of using complementary colors. So whereas most teachers would say, make sure you have a good balance of your complementary colors. So, for example, orange and blue, opposite colors on the color wheel, because it'll make for the most dynamic color planning combo that will pop the best. Well, that's not necessarily true, because when we came to Monet last night, we think about the work that he did with his water lilies, with his bridges, all his paintings in Giverny. What color palettes are those? Kind of blue and green, that's it, many shades of both. Or water lilies, purple, more purple and blue. Those are not opposite colors on the color wheel. Those are colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. Those are analogous colors. Analogous means they are immediately next to each other on the color wheel. And when we look at these really hip and popular rugs from the 1930s, 1940s, 1970s, We are looking at rugs that are being executed in analogous colors and not complementary colors. We are not looking at a full palette. I'm just trying to see where we are. So let's come away from that. Look at this one again. Because again, blue and green, those are immediately next to each other on the color wheel. Something to think about, particularly when you're doing abstracts or pattern-driven design, like Monet's water lilies, right? Very pattern-driven. We're not talking about a motif. We're not talking about storytelling. We're talking about something that operates and functions as a pattern. Certainly this is one of those. I think it is possibly a tree, maybe not, because it looks like there might be a trunk on both sides. Highly decorative, very artistic, very limited color palette. Here's another one that goes from orange to red to like a dark, dark, dark red. So all of these rugs seem to have this in common. It doesn't mean that with a raya rug you have to use analogous colors. Of course it doesn't mean that. But it does put it right in front of us, low-hanging fruit, something else to think about for your next rug, whether it's hooked or latched or a quilt. Whatever you're working on, it is worth thinking about absolutely breaking the rules about the color wheel and thinking, you know, I like the way these things are looking. You know, this again is a raya rug. You see those fine, the sort of fine grade of the height coming down row by row. You see how fine each little tuft of fiber is. And why does it look like that? Because it's cut? No, it's definitely not cut. They're all the same length, right? They've all been pre-cut, and you can do that yourself, the pre-cutting part. But they're all the same length, and as it comes down row to row, they are incrementally a little bit shorter, right? Because somebody has taken their hand and brushed it down a little bit instead of fluffing it up. Then we wouldn't be able to see this kind of a pattern within the pattern. Because it is row by row, slightly different heights. We're seeing the height difference in each row. It gives it a real texture, doesn't it? I mean, that is so interesting. I'm going to just come down in the thread because I have not been looking at the thread. Good morning, Shannon and Crystal, super muggy in Nova Scotia. See, I never think of Nova Scotia as being like that, but I know it must. I'm sorry. This is the back of that rug, by the way. So just a reminder, when you're looking at the back of a rug and you're going, what kind of a rug is this? This must be commercially made because it's backed. No, this is not commercially. It can be. If it's got a giant sticker on it that says the name of a company, it is commercially made. It is a commercially made shag rug, right, that can look like a raya rug. But when you see this, chances are that this is a raya rug, right? It's always hard, even with hooking or any form, to know whether you're looking at a commercial rug. This is such a beauty. This one really glows, doesn't it? And again, this is analogous colors. We're looking at like a celery, like a yellow green, going right through to almost an olive, right? So kind of warm and cool shades of green, but very limited color palette. Oh, Lynn, you logged on too, and Wendy learned more from watching Monet again on Sunday. So good. I'm so glad. Storms knocked out the power toward the end, I figured. Oh, man. Joy, good to see you. I'm sorry I missed saying hello. And Lisa, good morning. Good to see you. Cindy, good morning. Good morning to Lynn in rainy Tucson. Started to cool off, though, right? You're taking the good with the bad. Oh, Gayla, it's great to see you. Good morning. David, Sunny. Oh, this is a tough one. Sunny Carrizozo, New Mexico. David, welcome. Good to see you. Tad, good to see you in Hudson Valley, New York. I'm getting your order out today. Whitney, great to see you too. I am feeling a bit better. I'm just crazy. You know, it's more, I've got more emotional, mental crazy problems than I do ailments. I guess it is a form of ailment, but Kirsten, ribbon candy hooking. Okay, Kirsten's reminding us in the thread that our virtual hook-in, so the online hooking that we do 11 to 1 is tomorrow. And that is posted in our Facebook group, which is Rug Hooking and Punch Needle Club. If you aren't on Facebook but you want to log on and hook along, there's no format, there is no stress. It is just hooking and chatting with the camera on or off just for company. So good, I'm just catching up on your comments. I didn't realize. Shatha Simon, good to see you. Good morning. There is an old form of rug in Shetland called Tatit. Is it Tatit rug? Shetland people, especially men, used to make it for their children. It is a similar term. Oh, I'm going to have to look that up. That sounds amazing. They used it as a blanket. The face of the rug is next to their body to keep the warmth. They are very rare and beautiful. Oh, that sounds like a rabbit hole. I bet you're all ahead of me putting those words into Google. That sounds amazing. And Lynn says, I so want to try Raya rug making, but decided I needed to finish my 3.7 million other projects first. I hear you. I definitely hear you. Shetha says, I love the last episode with all the beautiful photos of the rugs. Me too. I am going to get the rest of that episode to you. I'll have to do that this week. I just don't know how to solve this stupid problem of this one slide being locked. Um, let's see. I'm just catching up with you there. I want to be sure I'm not behind with anything. Oh, Crystal says, always inspired by these episodes in such a huge way. They look over my shoulder at the looming pile of current projects, absolutely, and your business too, like your kits and your yarns. It's always a lot. Brenda, great to see you in hot Florida. I'm so sorry. And Pat, great to see you. You have the same orange black rug. Guess it shouldn't be on the floor. Oh, you're kidding. You have the same one, Pat. Well, you know what? If it's there and it's always been there and you like it there, then you should leave it there. But these Raya rugs are worth a bit. Carol, good to see you. Good morning. I'm going to come back to you for a minute. You know, it really depends on the Raya rug, the age of the Raya rug. There is a lot of competition for Raya rugs that are these early Scandinavian designs that can be pinpointed. So, you know, a good place to find them, I think, even better than eBay is Facebook Marketplace. There are a lot on Facebook Marketplace. There's a lot on Etsy, too. On eBay, you tend to get the better deals on them. And if you have time on your side, looking up handmade rug or latch rug or shag rug, you sometimes can find them by accident. I mean, the one from last week that was like 20 something dollars was just crazy. But depending on the design, the newer ones, like the 70s ones, are worth, I would say, between 100 and 300. But some of the Scandinavian ones that are older, that go back to the mid-century, that are put out by certain companies that obviously the kits are not available anymore. Um, you know, they would be offered in one or two different color palettes, sometimes three. Those can go much higher towards the $700,000 marks. It doesn't mean that all Raya rugs are worth that much. It means that collectors who are willing to pay that much are looking for specific designs. So if you have infinite funds and you're thinking about, God, I would like a bunch of Raya rugs. Wouldn't it be great to have them in the corner with my game table? Now I'm getting myself going here with a nice, like, old time 1930s card table where the legs open, you know, like old time, and have a whole corner of rugs behind them. And what if I collected just the 1950s MCM modern looking Raya rugs? If that's like a quest that you're on, you're going to find them, and they're going to each cost a lot because there's a lot of other people who are setting up a game corner with a portable card table and a little bridge card sets, you know, vintage everything, and they want the Raya rugs on the corner too, and they're also competing with you in buying them. But look on online auctions too, not just like eBay and Etsy, but look at like Auction Ninja. What's the other one, Jay, that's so big?
Auction Zip.
Auction Zip, right? So for local auctions or people that are willing to ship, be careful with costs with these auctions, but check them out, read first. Don't impulsively buy because a Raya rug is ending in 10 minutes. Make sure you know how much it's going to cost for shipping too and all of the added charges. But you can find them in a lot of places. If you're interested in the subject and you're interested in collecting them, because we're talking about something new, Raya rugs, when you put it into Google, you probably know this already, but there is a tab that's called shopping. And when you hit shopping, it just shows you all of the ones that are available. With a Raya rug, you're not going to get a lot of new results. You are going to get vintage ones, and it is going to show you results from eBay, Etsy, uh, typical and well-known online shopping sites, but also these live auctions that are in different parts of the country, and many of them will ship. So it's worth, if you like this conversation and you're going down the rabbit hole, it's worth checking those places as sources because you will get lots of results, and it will become a question of culling. You know, if you start bookmarking a bunch of things that you're interested in, culling them. Because, for example, with this design, this is just lovely. It's got such an architectural feel to it, doesn't it? Like an ironwork feel to it. This, I know that this comes in blue and orange as well. Might even come in like purples. But I mean, if you are a collector, God, wouldn't you like to pop art it and have this in four colors, like hanging together on one wall? Could be really cool. Karen says, I just ordered some Raya rug yarn for inexpensive on eBay to try. Absolutely. That's absolutely a good thing to do. And you know what else you can do? I'm going to show you, I'm probably going to do a video later this week to show you. I did some shopping this weekend. I did a little bit of like antiquing and flea market stuff. And I found a couple of, you know how you find these, we talk about them a lot. I'm just reminding you, needlepoint, vintage needlepoint kits, right? I like the Erica Wilsons because I kind of collect some of those. I like all of them. Some of them, the further you get from the 70s, right, you get more collectible. You get some of the brands that are super expensive. So you're not going to get a kit for under 200. Some of them you're not going to get the kit for under 500. No, it's not made for you. You still have to make it. But the wool is there, the backing is there. It's been retired. Maybe the company's not even there anymore. These are highly collectible and there's a big demand for them because when you think about it, you sit down to work on a project, we know this as well as anybody. You might spend weeks or months on it. You know, it is a lot of money outright to give somebody for a kit, but at the end of the day, how many hours are you going to be sitting there very tactile, touching the materials, enjoying it, working on it? It is also the time that you spend, right? So those are out there and those are available, but you do see ones in thrift stores and flea markets that are not the top brands, right? Kind of like the craft brands of the now box stores. So I picked up a couple of those this weekend for like $5 each. And I don't think I have them here. I was looking right before the show. They were like, I want to say like Karen brand, something like that, but they were needlepoint kits. And they were images I did not like, right? So I won't trash them. I'll probably donate them like very dated 70s stuff. But it was not your typical Persian wool, crewel, Crewel, wool that came with it. It was extra thin with both of these kits that I found. And I thought, ooh, interesting, because I love Erica Wilson. I love her. I'm obsessed with her videos, right? I love her legacy. But this is different wool. It's much thinner. And I found it twice in one weekend. And I thought, yeah, I'm getting that because I don't know what I'm using it for. Probably a hooking project. But my point is, sometimes you find, or maybe you have in your basement, some of these old kits with this old 100% Persian wool. And it's a kit that you have no interest in doing, but your plan is to pull the wool out and use it for a project. Some of those Persian wools, thick or thin, would work great for a raya rug. Now, if you were to go to my local yarn store here, I think it's called the Yarn Barn. I did a video there a year or two ago. They have a whole wall of individual Persian wool in any color you can think of. But you buy it by the knot. So you've got maybe 3 or 5 strands knotted, and maybe it's 30 cents or 15 cents for those strands. Now, that's okay. But if you're making a raya rug, you're going to need a lot of that. So it's great to find if you are near thrift stores or you are on eBay. Click on those crewel kits. Figure out which ones, when they show you the picture of the back of it, are loaded with Persian wool. That wool would be great for your raya rug. And you collect enough of it, right? Maybe somebody's selling a lot of these kits. Maybe you have a Savers or a Goodwill and you can shoot over there. Maybe there's a yard sale coming up in your town this coming weekend, and crafts is listed as one of the things they're selling. Pick up all of those kits with the Persian wool in them. It is great to find it, and that is exactly what you can use for these raya rugs. So just another thought to put out there. I absolutely love this rug. I'm going to get away from this slide. See, good thing I didn't have my other slides working because I'm taking so long to get through this. My mouth just keeps running. Let's see. And this is a close-up of that green one, right? So this is less Persian-y, right? This has a lower twist, but still wool and just beautiful. I mean, it's just soft. For fiber lovers, this just kills you, right? It just makes you feel like ill. You love it so much. You want to touch it so much. And again, the back of this particular rug, you see how neat and tidy it looks on the back. And then this high shag on the front. This is an exciting world, this raya rug world. I took lots of pictures of this. This is a lot lower of a shag than other rugs. So if you are getting your own wool and you are planning to cut your own, you loop as you go with this, right? So when I say it's pre-cut, it's not pre-cut. You're from what I know, and I have not made one, you're putting it through the needle and then you're running it over this stick thing, like this little wooden thing, like a little ruler, right? Or if you do latch hook, sometimes you have the pre-cut thing. It's like one of those little pre-cut wooden things. And you're running the needle around it until you get to the end of the strip that you've got. It can't be like unlimited, right? So you have to work with strips of yarn, and you're winding it, sewing it, and then you're pulling the ruler out and cutting it. So you're still using pre-cuts, but you're not using latch pre-cuts. You're using longer pre-cuts. So Persian wool should work. At least this is my understanding as a person who has not done raya rug, who's just looked at books of making raya rugs thus far. It won't be soon, but hopefully this fall I will work on one too, Karen. So let's push forward here. Oh, this is the raya sheep, right? It is a specific breed. So this is a picture of what the raya sheep looks like. And its wool really does look like this yarn. Now, you don't have to use this particular type of sheep's wool to make your raya rug. I'm sure you could use something similar weight. Hey, Jane, great to see you. Vera, great to see you. Good evening in Russia. You are so welcome here. Good to see you. Lots of buddies popping up. Jane is in England. Jane is in Wales. Jane, I owe you a message. I need to send you a message too. But interesting to look at what the sheep looks like. I mean, I have never seen, I'm not up on my sheep for sure, but I've never seen a sheep that looks like this. It really does look like the actual rug. Like, it looks like a walking rug. Interesting, isn't it? Oh, Vera, I'm so glad you're there. Now, this is another picture of the raya rug, raya sheep being sheared. So, all interesting. And I assume, not knowing anything about this animal, that they will spin it and process it the same way that they would any other kind of wool yarn, right? It is crystal, a gorgeous creature. It looks almost like, the wool almost looks like a cat, doesn't it? It has that kind of like calico glow to it. It's a beautiful animal. I know a lot of you are big sheep people, and you're going, oh, of course that's a raya sheep. How did you not know that? This is the definitive rug book on raya rugs. I have this book. I had it in my hand, and I lost it before the show. It was not good moments before the show today. But I have this book, and I think we should look at it together. So let's make that a different episode. Oh, Karen says you can also not individually cut pieces of yarn. Karen, I'm so glad that you said that, because I thought so, and then I started second guessing myself. I was looking at this book and they were showing around that wooden tool, but I thought so because I was looking at other people doing it like ages ago, and I was pretty sure they were nodding. So it looks like there's more than one way to do this craft. I have this book already. I've had it for a while. I have not had a chance to go through it. So let me take a look. Fernanda, good to see you. Great to see you. Let me take a look at it. See, it looks here like in the cover photo. And I think this is, what's this brand called? Bird, B-Y-R-D. This is the woman who has a great Facebook page, Melinda Purcell Bird. I think it's Bird Call, her Etsy page, something like that. But she is really the person who is spearheading the revival of this form. And even just looking at her cover example, this is a very thick book. Even looking at our cover example, the amount of shading that can be done in this high shag way with this much finer material, you know, if you are interested in this form and you're thinking, I like latch, I love the idea of latch. Oh, I'm glad you found it too, Vera. Oh, good. Get started. Make sure you tune in as much as you can and ask all your questions because we have the answers for you. We always want to help get you going. Don't get frustrated. That's the main thing. Just keep going. In this picture, she's just using the needle. She's not using the tool. So it seems like there's lots of ways to do it, like every rag rug craft, right? You can, this is less of a rag one though, isn't it? Because you really need to have your materials sorted and you really need to have your color palette in mind. So, you know, you're all kind of stocked up for your project. If you are doing stuff with color variation, then you have a bit more wiggle room. But it's not a rag craft in the sense that there is a bag of rags beside you in your chair and you're pulling out a little bit here, cutting it with the scissors, hooking it in. This is a little bit different. But it is very different than all of the other forms from what we're seeing so far. I just thought interesting, right? More on that coming up. Let's conclude this episode more in our traditional rug comfort zone. These are rugs that I wanted to conclude with. I cannot find my papers. I'm going to walk away from you for a split second and see if they're in my bag. Disastrous. Mama is disastrous. Yes, they are in my bag. Can you believe it? Let me see if I can find this one that we left off on. Um, yeah, this is all of the, I'm just looking at the rag rugs that I was looking at. Those are all on eBay. And they might not be anymore because this episode was last week. Karen says she has a wonderful beginner kit too for not a whole lot. That is good. Um, yeah, for not a whole lot is good too with the Raya rugs because as you can imagine, using that much material in one rug project, um, it has potential to become expensive if you're working with all wool. But let's talk more about Raya rugs for sure. I'm interested too, and I would love to make a small piece. I would love to make a small piece and figure out how to make it for as little as possible to get started. For me, I always like to work, on a budget, and then if I love what I'm doing, I'll come back to it later and say I'm going to pig out on some nice yarn because I know that I love it. But before I know I love it, I like to figure out how to do it a little bit less expensively. So I'm gonna work into a Raya rug episode or week for sure. By the way, I think it's bingo night this week. I'm gonna have to talk to Kira about that. We should get thinking about that. Now, I want to conclude this episode back in our comfort zone, looking at a few of the hooked rugs that, at least last week, were available on eBay. Um, Interesting finds. There's always new stuff popping up on these auction sites. This is a beautiful, very different motif, right? It's real specific, but this one is called Vintage with a VTG, hand hooked rug, 39 by 46, folk art, house, farm, water, wheel, roses, birds. That's the title on eBay. It's located in Georgia. The seller is called Addix, but Addix. I just realized how close the word addict is to attic, and the addicts with an X is kind of a variation. Interesting. This rug is $99 plus $24 for shipping, and the description simply says vintage hand hooked rug, cotton question mark. So this one, I mean, this is a very sweet rug. For me, 99 is a lot for this one because even the seller is not sure what the material is. I'm thinking the material is probably wool. But I don't know this pattern, and I would guess that this is not a commercial pattern. It could be that the central house mill motif is, but I think this is probably a specific place, and somebody has kind of mixed a few different motifs from making it like a hooked rug of a building, specifically a mill. Mountains in the background, that might be a clue. Maybe somebody recognizes the place, right? And these dark pine trees. So these are all clues. And then kind of funny because it does look almost like a winterscape, but they've put some lovely little Victorian style birds and roses on the sides, almost like a border. It's a very unusual rug. I just want to catch up on the comments. Lynn says, real Raya backing is pricey, but Karen found an acrylic backing here in the States that is less expensive. You can also weave Raya rugs. Yes, I went down the rabbit hole. I guess you did, Lynn. That's interesting. We've got to keep pooling our information on this subject for all backings, not just for Raya backing, because I've been starting to go down the rabbit hole as time allows, looking at simple loomed um, textiles, right, in general. So I was even looking at the bookstore because there are even magazines that are like called little loomed projects or textiles or something like that, little loomed somethings. But there are so many different types of looms out there, from very, very wide, like, sitting at looms that are in the many thousands or tens of, to very small table looms, to the bracelet looms, stuff in between. I'm starting to look at this as a possibility and think for people who like both weaving and, for example, hooking, or Raya rug, making a shag rug with a needle, there probably are lots of ways to get around purchasing a very expensive backing, because the Raya rug backing is at full price, from the main seller, quite a bit. And I'm sure it's worth every penny because it's beautiful material. But for those of you who like to do as much of the process as you can, and you're interested in looming anyway, weaving, I'm wondering which of these looms, and maybe you can answer this for me or send me an email, which of these kinds of looms make sense for a person who wants to only make backings for themselves that are, for example, at the most 15 inches or 18 inches, smaller sized rugs? Does anybody have any suggestions for the kind of a loom that would make sense to invest in? Because there are some looms out there that I'm seeing for like $60, $100, and that's not nothing. But, you know, if you can save money looming it yourself and you enjoy that part of it as you're backing, and you plan to do a lot of Raya rugs in the future, and maybe you can even create a backing that you could also use, hey Rita, for hooking or for Prati or for other rug forms, then it would well be worth the money for the loom. So this is something else I'm trying to figure out. I could definitely use help with that. Rita says use Weaveettes. Ooh, from the 50s. They make a woven backing. Weaveettes. So the word weave hyphen ETS. You've Weaveettes. Now, Rita, is that like a machine or is that a finished product, the Weaveette? That sounds fantastic. It's not one of those pot holder things, right? I look at those too and I think, what else could we do with these? Because they really are beautiful, aren't they? We already know that we can use those pot holder loops for rug hooking. Um, Interesting. I'm going to wait and see what Rita says because the Weavette sounds interesting. So this was just one of these rugs that popped up that for me was so different, right? I'm going to move on from it. There are just a few close-ups I put in. It's very different. I know that I have not seen this pattern, but again, I think it might be a composite. It might be a specific place that was important to the maker, and then they added bits and pieces. Looking at the back of it, it's absolutely a hooked rug, so that part's for sure. You can see there was a slightly different coloring. There is a lot of fading to the mountains over time, I guess. It's not a particularly old rug. I'm sure that this is a probably 1930s, 1940s, maybe even 1950s rug. This is a clipped rug, so I wanted to, oh, Rita says, sew them, rug, so you sew them. Oh, see the squares, you sew the squares together. Rug Hooking Magazine has an article on that. Oh, interesting. Okay, we'll have to figure out when that is. Yes, the potholder looms. Oh, you're kidding. Oh, that's exciting. Well, that's a great lead. So there we go. Let's follow up on that one. That's a great idea, and then you can sew them together. You know, it's so funny that you said that because I was just thinking one of the videos I want to do this week is on showing you how to the different ways that you might connect small projects. So a lot of you at one point were doing my 10-inch squares the first year I was in business and you want to connect them. I want to do a video to show you how to sew them together or other choices for putting them together, not just straight sewing them, but some other choices. So that's interesting. That's a great idea, being able to buy something like that, inexpensive, and then piece things together into a larger project. Gives you, having different components like that too, gives you lots of opportunities, doesn't it, for composing in a different way, right? You get a real Hollywood Squares composition, but then you can really choose what you want to include and where you want to place it. And Beverly says, use a rigid heddle loom. Okay, interesting. I'm going to have to, can somebody just text that to me or something so I don't forget that? Because I won't be able to see the comments later, I don't think. Lynn says, basic frame with lots of little nails. Oh, interesting. So Lynn's saying, these are great suggestions. Everybody, these are great suggestions. So Lynn's saying, you know, you just get a piece of wood and then you just put the nails in and then you weave in between. A homemade loom, why not? That makes a lot of sense too. We need to have a whole conversation about this, don't we? We need to demystify the idea of making your own backing fabric because I think a lot of us are interested in many forms of rug making. Yeah, this is a to be continued. Now, this is a clipped rug, and I had a real love for this when I saw it. It's a real Art Deco style rug, isn't it? I'm trying to figure out where I put my paper with this on it. Not there. Well, in any case, I'm going to wing it. This one was on eBay last week. This is a clipped rug, meaning it was hooked, like a rug hooked rug. It was hooked, but they clipped it. They cut the pile of it after they hooked it. So instead of ending with loops, they clipped it and they ended with a pile, like a hooked rug or a Raya rug or any shag rug. So it's done with a rug hook. It's done in the same manner as rug hooking, but a lot of people prefer clipped rugs, again the British say clippies, to a looped rug. Same exact thing. It's just that you're taking your scissors out at the end of this one and you're clipping all of them. And you can see this cross section looks very different. It's just a different look. A lot of people only clip part of their rugs, but it does give you a different look. I think it is quite lovely. You're seeing more of a cross section of the wool strips. This works really well with very wide cuts. So 8, 9s, anything that you would clip and rip, that kind of a cut does very well with clipping. It creates so much interest on the top, almost a different pattern on the top. Look at how neat and pretty this is on the back. This looks like a real old-time thrifty rug for me. I definitely put this 1920s, 1930s, certainly done on burlap. Some problems with the edges, but picking up a rug like this isn't overly risky. This is something that you could certainly fix. Judy Taylor is the person to help you with that. And I will in the future try to do more short videos with simple repairs like border repairs, putting patches on the back to be able to hook through where there is complete loss and holes. But Judy Taylor is really the person to go to for restoration. Beautiful back. I'm just staring at this because it's so, I like it too, Barbara. It really had kind of that Tiffany glass look, didn't it, because of the black outlining. But anyway, the places you go, right, Dr. Seuss, when you go onto the internet and you start looking at rugs that are currently for sale, and this one 20-minute search I did to originally put this episode together took me to Raya Rugs by accident because of that mismarked latch hook rug. So yeah, if you have time on your side and it is warm out there and you are cool where you are, it's worth plugging in these tags like rag rug, handmade rug, homemade rug, space in between, space not in between, particularly on smaller sites like Facebook Marketplace, to try to figure out if people have mismarked things that they have up there, because it might be that you would like to start collecting a specific thing and they're just generally very expensive, and you're very lucky when you find one that's mismarked, like the Raya rug. Or it might be that you just find rugs that aren't turning up in the normal search because the seller has marked them wrongly, labeled them wrongly, and it's even more satisfying to find those rugs because nobody else has found them. So it's all good ideas for going down the rabbit holes, but let's continue our conversation for sure about the Raya rugs. I'm just thinking forward into the week. Tomorrow is our hook-in day. I plan to log on for that. For me in the summer, it is hard because I know I'll run a Friday show, but I'm always, on Friday, let's do Raya rugs on Friday. That'll give us another week to get bingo together. We'll do bingo next week. So let's run a Raya rug show on Friday. I might even wait 2 weeks for bingo because I want to get another gallery night in. This coming Friday on Cocktail Time, it will be an all Raya rugs episode. Let's say that. And look out on Facebook because tomorrow is certainly going to be the virtual hook-in, and I will try to log on. But as I was saying, for me in the summer, I still have 2 little ones because I had my kids so old, at such an advanced age, both in my 40s. And they are ready to rumble all the time. So I'm just going to look at the weather forecast and see what days we're looking at rain. I plan to run coffee time on Wednesday. But if it turns out that it's our only decent day of the week, I might put up a notice and say, I'm going to go out and do something with them instead. Beach, amusement park, some kind of summery thing, because we are way to the end of July at this point. So that is a to be continued. But I plan to run on Wednesday, to be continued, and I will certainly run on Friday, and that will be our all Raya Rugs episode. And in the meantime, I'll figure out how to do the conclusion to Beauport, the Sleeper McCann house on Cape Ann. Make sure that you look on Ribbon Candy Hooking for that Amish toothbrush class that is coming up. I forgot to show you these great guys that I'm going to be stocking in the store too. I'll show you those on the next Coffee Time episode. That'll be a new product that's in the store along with the frames and a bunch of other new things we have going. So check out the Ribbon Candy Hooking store while you have a chance. If you are on Facebook, it is Madcap Monday in our group, which is Rug Hooking and Punch Needle Club. So this is the day of the week that everybody's allowed to advertise things that they sell. So there are a lot of beautiful products and kits by different brands on Rug Hooking and Punch Needle Club this morning, all day on Monday. So take a look at those. Lots of nice things for sale. And I will plan to see you on Wednesday, unless things change. Hopefully not. But I will certainly see you on Friday for Raya Rugs. And look for posts for me. I will be putting up a blog in the meantime, but also on our Facebook page. Hey Ryan, good to see you. Here's to a great week. I will see you. I will see you all soon. Send me emails if you have some great info. I want to continue the conversation about the looms too, and that will feed right into our Friday night episode on Raya Rugs. Let's talk about all that soon. Brenda, the Facebook page, can somebody type it in there? It's Rug Hooking and the ampersand sign, not spelled out, and Rug Hooking and Punch Needle Club. And we are the largest rug club on Facebook in this country now, which I think we should be super proud of. So I'll just wait 1 second. I'm trying, Lynn. I've got so many good projects going on. I'm excited, but I feel so guilty every time I look at the kids and they're looking like they're bored or playing video games. I'm thinking, what can we do now? It's summer after all. Oh, thank you, Rita. I'm just going to wait 1 second before I close because then I think it will kill the thread. I'm hoping that somebody types in Rug Hooking and Punch Needle Club. And if not, I'll log off. But it should be there on Facebook. If you type in Rug Hooking, it should be one of the first Facebook clubs that pop up. And it is such a nice group, such a nice, encouraging, kind, friendly group of people. It is, yeah, it's a lot of good feedback, a lot of good help, a lot of forthcoming tips and advice. I think I will log off. The delay is just too long. Rug Hooking and Punch Needle Club. I will see you hopefully on Wednesday, certainly on Friday. Send me an email if you want about anything, gallery stuff, questions, ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com. I will see you all soon. There it is, Ryan. Thank you so much. You can see it visually. It helps a little bit more, I think, to see it visually. I will see you all soon. Happy to